Shvua Tov, good Tavach, everybody. Hope you had an easy fast on Friday. Asara Beteives, which doesn't come out too often on a Friday. The last time was in the year 2001. That's about 10 years ago. And before that was 96. That was about 4 years before that. And then, I don't know when it was before 96. I have no idea. So let's ask. Before we start, you know that Torah Anytime is having $100,000 grand prize lottery. Enter for a chance to win $100,000. When is it going to be? January 19th is the cutoff date. 2 weeks later, on February 2nd, will be the drawing. For one ticket cost $100. 2 tickets cost $180. That means $90 each. 3 tickets is $250, $83 each. 7 tickets is $500, $71 each. $1,000, 15 tickets, $66 each. So this is heard in 120 countries, and the grand prize is $100,000. There's 10,000 shiurim on Torah Anytime, 250 Magidei shiurim, Rabbi's teaching, 3,000 hours online already of Torah Anytime. So take a chance at Torah Anytime, join for $100,000. Cutoff date is January 19th. It's about a little over 3 weeks from now. February 2nd is the drawing for $100,000. 1 ticket $100, 2 tickets $180, 3 tickets $250, 7 tickets $500, 15 tickets $1,000. That means that 15 tickets you pay $66.66 each to win $100,000. That's the best way to support TorahAnytime.com. This is the most powerful instrument, Torah Anytime, for disseminating pure Torah all over the world. Now, since Friday was one of the 6 fast days, we're going to discuss a few minutes about Friday, Asara Beteives. Do you know why we have Asara Beteives? Very good. In the first Beis Hamikdash, Nebuchadnezzar sent his generals to surround the bias, and they did it for 2.5 years. It started on Asara Beteives. 2.5 years later, on Shiva Asar Tammuz, they broke in. 9th of Av, 3 weeks later, they burned down the first bias. 490 years later, because between the 2 biases were 70 years, and the second one stood 420, so 420 and 70 is 490. 490 years later, he burnt down the exact same day, not by Babylonians, by Romans. Same day. And you know, Tisha B'Av is the 9th day of the 11th month. Av Elul. 9/11. All Jews were thrown out of Spain on 9/11, 1492. Tisha B'Av. And the First World War started in 1914 on Tisha B'Av, 9/11. Kristallnacht in the Second World War, Kristallnacht in 1938 was 11/9, November 9th, 9/11, 11/9. And that terrible tragedy that happened to it in America 10 years ago was on 9/11. So we have a history of 9/11 going back 2,000 years. More than that, 2,500 years. Now let's talk about Asara Beteives. You can see it on Torah Anytime. Just scroll it down. The 10 questions of Asara Beteives. Of the 6 Tanaisim, fast days, we observed, which is the only one that we can actually fast for on a Friday? Obviously, Asara Beteives. Why? Because the Navi says in Yechezkel 24, Ve'etzem hayom hazeh, on this day. And that means you cannot switch it. If Purim came out on Motzi Shabbat, Sunday, Tanis Esther is not Shabbat or Friday, it's Thursday, back. But, because it doesn't say Ve'etzem hayom hazeh. But Asara Beteives, it says Ve'etzem hayom hazeh, that same day. So therefore it has to be on a Friday. Where else does it say Be'etzem Hayom Hazeh that you have to do it on the day? we fast on Yom Kippur, even if it comes out on Shabbos, because it says Ve'etzem Hayom Hazeh. And a bris milah, we do cutting, we let out blood. It's Chil Shabbos, but it says Ve'etzem Hayom Hazeh. Hashem told Abraham, you have to make the bris on the 8th day. So even if it comes out on Shabbos, we do a bris. Those three things. What does the following set of antonyms have to do with the fast days? Antonyms: black and white, man, woman, long, short. These are the 6 fast days. Black, white. Tisha B'Av is a sad day. Black, white. Everything is in white. Yom Kippur, it's a Yontif. It's a fast day. Man and woman. Man, that's Som Gedalia, who was a man. He was killed by some religious fanatics who were not within the halacha. Wild men who thought they knew better than the Gedolim. They killed Gedalia, who was a tzaddik. That's called man. Woman is Esther, Tanis Esther. Long is the longest daytime Tanis. That's Shiva Asara Beteives in the middle of the summer, July. And shortest was Friday, Asara Beteives, because the day is very short. By the way, this year, this Friday in New York, we already had sunset 1 minute longer. The earliest day in the New York area for sunset is the 4:27. We already lit 4:28 or 4:29 this last Friday. So it's starting to go back up towards spring. And in about a month from now, it'll be 4:45. And in 2 months from now, it'll be 5 o'clock. Maybe later. Number 3, what happened on Asara Beteives? On this day, Nebuchadnezzar, we told you, the Babylonian king, began his siege of Yerushalayim at the time of the first Beis Hamikdash for 2.5 years. Earlier, his father's son, Chaim, on the first night of Pesach, a couple of years earlier, on the first night of Pesach, brought 185,000 soldiers, including invited guests, spectators, to see how he's going to destroy Yerushalayim, to watch the attack on Yerushalayim. The next morning, all the soldiers, when they were about to attack Yerushalayim, all of the soldiers, 185,000, not one got up. They all dropped dead at night. Slain by the hand of the Malach Gabriel. Only 5 survived, son Chaim and his 4 sons. Where do you want to look this up? Melachim Beis, Yutes 1935, Pasuk 35. Number 4, the Shulchan Aruch in Tov Kuf Nun, Shulchan Aruch Siman 550, says that if any of the 4 Tanaisim associated with the Churban Havayas, excluding Yom Kippur and Tanis Esther, because Esther happened in Persia, the other 4 happened in Eretz Yisrael. If any of the 4 Tanaisim, means Tisha B'Av, Asara Beteives, and Som Gedalia, came out on the Shabbos, they are postponed. Why is this not exactly true? Because Asara Beteives could never come out on Shabbos. And especially today, since we have a fixed calendar. Asara Beteives is the only fast day that could come out on a Friday. But years ago, when they did not have a fixed calendar, it could say that if it came out on Shabbos, they are postponed. But if it came out on a Friday, like Asara Beteives, it's not postponed. Number 5. Which Tanis cancels one of the Sheva Brachos days? What Tanis cancels one of the Sheva Brachos of a Chasnei Kala? One of the Sheva Brachos days. The Tanis cancels one of the Sheva Brachos days. Asara Beteives. Because it says, Im lo a'ale es Yerushalayim al rosh simchasi, or any of these 4. Any of the 4 that are associated with the destruction of Yerushalayim, if they came out on on one of the Sheva Brachos days, you would have to fast, and you can't celebrate Sheva Brachos that day. Number 6, which Tanis is a Yom Tov? Which Tanis is a Yom Tov? Which Tanis was a Yom Tov? Which Tanis will be a Yom Tov? Which Tanis is a Yom Tov? You know that. Yom Kippur, you say good Yom Tov, don't you? Which Tanis was a Yom Tov? Tisha B'Av. In the second Beis Hamikdash, you celebrated Tisha B'Av of the first Beis Hamikdash as a Yom Tov, because it was standing, the second Beis Hamikdash. And the next one, which Tanis will be a Yom Tov. That's Tisha B'Av. It's going to be a very big Yom Tov. After Mashiach comes. What is Vahab, Beis, Hey, Beis? What is Shovavim, Tat? What is Tanis Dibur? You know what a Tanis Dibur is? What is a Tanis Chalom? And Yom Kippur Katan, what is that? Well, Bahab is Beis, Hey, Beis. After Pesach and Sukkot ends, the next month after those months of the Yom Tov, you fast the first Beis, Hey, Beis. Monday, Thursday, Monday, because 3 fast days in the next month after Nisan and after Sivan, you fast 3 first, Monday, Thursday, Monday, because of some Averos you may have done on Yom Tov. A lot of people come to Yerushalayim, maybe involvement too much with people you shouldn't be involved with, Lashon Hara, maybe borrowed stuff from people without asking permission, maybe you did some improprieties. You fast on Bahab after Pesach and after Sukkot. It's not after Shavuos, because Shavuos doesn't have the Chol. It's only one day, and you don't have too much interaction with people. What is Shovavim Tat? We have it this next week coming up. Shmos, it's the Rosh Hashanah of all the 6 Sedras that for the next 6 weeks we fast. Some people Monday and Thursday, some only Thursday. Why is Thursday more important than Monday? Because Thursday Moshe went up to Har Sinai for 40 days and came back on a Monday. So Thursday, they fast every Thursday, so Monday and Thursday, for Shin, Vav, Beis, Beis, Yud, Mem. Shmos, Va'era, Bo, V'shaloch, Yisro, Mishpatim. This year is a leap year, so they're going to have 2 more. Teruma Tetzaveh, Tat, Sho, Vav, Bim, Tat. They fast because in the Parshas, starting with next week, Shmos talks about the enslavement of the Jewish people for the next few weeks. So therefore, we fast on the Thursdays of those 6 weeks, or this year 8 weeks, Shovavim, Shmos ve'evra bo b'shaloch yisro mishpat netruma tetzaveh. 8. Because it talks about the Jews' enslavement and everything, we want to share their grief and an opportunity to do tshuva. Tanis Dibur, if you said something very bad with your mouth, you take upon yourself a Tanis Dibur, not to speak whole day, maybe a few hours, maybe a certain day, certain hours every day. Some people have it right after Shabbos starts, after they finish davening till they make Kiddush. They don't say Good Shabbos. Anybody, they smile. So it says about Tanya's Dibor, you're allowed to talk, daven and learn Torah, but nothing else. Can't talk any conversation. It's called Tanya's Dibor because of you did Averos with your mouth. Tanya's Chalom, if you have a bad dream and it comes out on Friday night, you can fast the next day Shabbos because that's your own next Shabbat. Because it was such a scary dream, you want to do tshuva, and fasting makes you feel better. So you can have Tanis Chalom on the Shabbos, if you had a bad dream Friday night. And Yom Kippur Katan, that's the day before Rosh Chodesh every month. Because Yom Kippur is a little, every Rosh Chodesh is a little Yom Kippur. So the day before is Yom Kippur Katan. And why is every Rosh Chodesh Yom Kippur? Because you're saying Musaf, but Rosh Chodesh, Zaman Kapara, the Chol Dodosam, a time of atonement for all your sins, once a month. So the day before is Yom Kippur Katan. People do that. Number 8, which Tanis is the weakest, halachically? Which one is weakest, and it's only a minhag. The others are Iser de Rabbanon, except Yom Kippur, which is Iser de Raisa. But the other 4 of the other 5 are Iser de Rabbanon to eat on those days. One of the leftover 5 is not even an Iser de Rabbanon, it's only a minhag. You know why? On one of the fast days, nothing bad happened. Tisha B'Av, something bad happened. Shivos B'Tamuz, something bad happened. Asara Beteives, something bad happened. Tzom Gedalia, something bad happened. But on Tanis Esther, nothing bad happened. They wanted to kill us in 127 lands. Haman and his horde. And Hashem and Mordechai, they got Haman hung. Mordechai became the prime minister. And he sent out new letters that Jews can protect themselves. And we beat the children of Haman very much. We didn't lose anybody. They got slaughtered, 80,000 people. So therefore, it's the weakest of all the Tanes. If you have a little headache, you can eat. Tanis Esther, because nothing bad happened to the Jewish people on that day. So the other fast days, you have to have a real good reason to eat. On Tanis Esther, if you have a little pain somewhere, you can eat a little bit. It's the weakest, it's a minhag rather than an isser, and women who are pregnant don't have to fast, nursing women don't have to nurse. When Yom Kippur, a woman has to fast, even she's nursing and fasting, because it's a deraisa, unless the baby's going to die or she's going to get sick, that's something else, but Yom Kippur is only a fast day, which is of the 6, that's a deraisa. Correct, if you eat, unless you have a good reason, then the mitzvah to eat. Which Tanis is their greatest severity than Yom Kippur? Tisha B'Av. Why? Because you are allowed to cool yourself with a damn cloth on Yom Kippur. But you cannot cool yourself on Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av, you're supposed to be unhappy, miserable, and uncomfortable. Yom Kippur, you're not supposed to be unhappy, miserable, and uncomfortable. It's a Yom Tov. Can't eat. But if you have it's a very hot day, Yom Kippur, you can take a cloth that's already wrung out before Yom Kippur, otherwise you touch it, squeeze it, it's schita, isa deraisa, and Yom Kippur has a din of Shabbos. So you can put it over your head if it's nice and cool, but on Tisha B'Av, it's weekday, you can wring it out all you want. You can't put it on your forehead because you make yourself cool down. You're supposed to be miserable. That's why you don't eat, you sit on the floor. Yom Kippur is not as severe as Tisha B'Av in one thing, in comfort. You're not supposed to be comfortable on Tisha B'Av. Yom Kippur, you sit on regular chairs. And Tisha B'Av, you sit on the ground. On Tisha B'Av, it's worse. It's more severe than Yom Kippur. Because on Tisha B'Av, because on Yom Kippur, you're allowed to cool yourself. On Tisha B'Av, you're not allowed to cool yourself. On Tisha B'Av, no form of pleasure is allowed. Should you turn off the air conditioning? Well, if you're a great person, you should do it, because you should suffer like thousands and millions of Jews who were slaughtered on that day. You should also maybe turn off your AC and don't listen to anything, at least till 1 o'clock. You're not allowed to have anything in your mind, can't go to work until 1 o'clock. Some people daven mincha then put on film at 1 o'clock, or whenever Mechatzos is. So, gotta be careful with Tisha B'Av. No pleasures. Number 10. What 2 tragedies happened in Teves? Actually 3. The 8th, the 9th, and the 10th. The 10th is the fast day, Asara Beteives. The 9th, what about that? Well, let's start with the 8th. On the 8th, the Greek translation of the Torah, the Septuagint, written by 72 sages in 72 buildings, and Talmai HaMelech told them to write down the Torah of Moshe, your teacher, by heart, all the 5 Chumashim, and they wrote it by heart into Greek. It's called the Septuagint, 72 scholars. It's called in Hebrew Targum Shivim, the translation of the Shivim, the 72 scholars, and they wrote 72 Sefer Torahs, and Hashem put in their brain, all 72 of them, to make 13 changes where the guy, Talmai, would not understand the translation, he'll be insulted. So they made 13 changes. On the 8th day of Teves, Greek translation of Torah, Septuagint, Targum Shivim. On the 9th, Ezra, the scribe, Ezra Sofer, who was like Moshe Rabbeinu in his generation, died. Look at Sof, the end of Megillus Tanis, the first book written after the Gemara. It's called Sefer Megillus Tanis, as it has a level of a Mishnah. And on the 10th, Nehemiah died. The 10th of Teves, Nehemiah died. Look at Sanhedrin Chav Aleph, Amud Beis. Ezra and Nehemiah built the second Beis Hamikdash. Also on the 9th, it says at the end of Megillus Tanis, and the last chapter, Perek Achron, 12th chapter, one of the Chidut, it says in the Mishnah there, that on the 9th, something happened that the Chachamim didn't want to say what it was. So in the parish called Chidushim, on the bottom he said, this man wrote this, I don't know, hundreds of years ago, I heard from a Gadol Echad, that day they didn't want to say the 9th day of Teves was Osa Ha'ish, that man of the other religion was born. So probably it was this year it's on the, whatever it was, Friday, 18th, 19th, but that year maybe came after 25th of December. Osa Ha'ish, JC, was born, according to Megillah's Times. Bonus question. In Parshas Vayishlach, it says in Bereshit, because Yaakov fought with the angel of Esav, and he wrestled with him that night, the angel of Esav hit him in the hip, and the sciatic nerve, the Gid Hanosha, jumped out, and therefore the Torah says, Al came therefore lo yokli b'nei Yisrael. No Jew should eat sciatic nerve, Gid Hanosha. It says lo yokli b'nei Yisrael, Gid Hanosha. Where in this pasuk that I just read you do we find a remez, the hint, to the 6 fast days of the year? It says, "Arkain lo yochlu," Jews shouldn't eat. Gid hanosha, so lo yochlu. As gid hanosha, we figure out the 6 fast days where you can't eat. Want to know where? It says lo yochlu. And they say es gid, the gid. Gid is a sinew. Es gid, aleph, tov, es, right? Aleph is Kanas Esther, tov is Tisha B'Av. Gid, Gimel is Gedalia, Tzom Gedalia. Yud, Yom Kippur, or Asara Beteives, Yud. Dalet, Gid is the 4th month, which is Tammuz. And on Tammuz we have the 17th of the 4th month. Now we got one, the 4th month. Dalet is the 4th month, Tammuz. And, yeah, but how do you know it's the 17th? Gid, Gimel, Yud, Dalet is 17. 3 and 10 is 13, and Dalet is 4 is 17. So Shiva Asar Tammuz, Gid, and Dalet, you understand? As Gid, Dalet is the 4th month, and the 17th in the 4th month. That is the Shach al HaTorah. It's a major person on the Torah. He brings this whole thing down, how to remember the fast days for the word Eskid. Alright, let me just finish up the Torah here. Vayechi, which we learned today. Before I ask that, I would like to ask you a Bamba Kasha. Anybody in the world listening to me, any place in the world, you can call me anytime, day and night, if you have the answer to this question. A few weeks ago we started saying Talamoto, right? For rain. So how come, when we started after Sukkot, we said, Mashiv Ruach Amor de Goshem, he makes the wind blow, and the Geshem, the rain to fall. So that means somewhere between Sukkot and Pesach, 6 months, there's going to be rain. And Mashiv Ruach Amor de Goshem is in the first 3 brachas. That's not a request. The first 3 brachas is a statement of Gevurah, of power, of... And then the middle 13 brachas are requests. So the first mention of water is Mashiv Ruach Amor de Goshem. That's called the Azkara. You mention it. But inside the middle of Shemona Esrei, in the Baruch Eloheinu Shoshana Hazos, you say the same Tal Matar Levracha. Tal, do, and Matar, rain for bracha. Please tell me, somebody, what's the difference between Geshem, rain, and Matar, rain? Anybody know that? Does anybody know the difference between Geshem, rain, and Matar, rain? If you know that, call me on my cell. 845 area, 826-4789. What's the difference between, if you mean rain, call it both rain. Mashiv Ruach Amor de Goshem, saying Tal u Geshem Levracha. If you mean Matar is rain, so they say in the beginning of Shemona Esrei, Mashiv Ruach Amor HaMatar. What's the difference between Matar and Geshem? 845-826-4789. If you call right now, I can't answer you, but I'll answer you at the end if you call me. I'll answer you. Just tell me your name, first name, what country you're calling from, what state you're calling from. That's one Bambakasha. Tatsatsa, what do you call it? Kusha Batsatsa. A Bambakasha. Next one is, when you say the brachas every morning, Shlo Sani Goy, Shlo Sani Ovid, Shlo Sani Isha, you say a certain bracha that doesn't fit in there. You say Matir Asurim, that fits in there. You make people that are arrested free, or people paralyzed, you cure them. So Zokef Kafufi, people bent over and crippled, you straighten them out. Then you say Roka Oris Alamani, you put the earth on top of the water. When he created the world, he made it was all water first, right? Didn't it say it was all water? Then Hashem said there should be Oretz. What is that doing here? If you say Matir Asurim, make people that are paralyzed, you cure them, then you bent over, you have a back trouble, then you straighten out. Or Zokif Kafufim, you straighten out people. Rokar Salamayim, you spread the earth on the water. Asali Kal Sarki, you do everything that I need. That means a pair of shoes you have. Hamechim and said they govern, you cause people to walk and travel distances, walk. What do you, he said, Shlosani Goy, Shlosani Oven, Shlosani Isha, Malbushamumim, Matir Asurim, Zokif Kafufim, Osali Kal Sarki, Hamechim and said he govern, cause people to walk, let them walk. What is Roka Ha'oretz Alamayim? You put the earth on top of the water. What does that have to do with me, my personal getting up in the morning? That's question number 2, Bom Bakasha. And the third Bom Bakasha is how come in this week's Seder of Vayechi, the father Yaakov switched his hands, put the right hand over the younger one. Why did he reject the Bechor? Menashe, why did he reject the Bechor? Abraham rejected the Bechor, and his favorite son was Yitzchak. Yitzchak rejected the Bechor, and his favorite son was Yaakov. Hashem picked the first 2 people born in this world, Cain and Hevel. He didn't pick Cain the Bechor. He picked Hevel, and he looked at his carbon and did not look at Cain. Noach had 3 sons, Shem, Cham, and Yosef. Shem is the youngest, and Hashem gave all the bracha to Shem. That's where Avraham comes from. And Cham and Yosef, they're not the one that Jewish people come from. Yitzchak and not Yishmael, Yaakov and not Esav, Yosef and not Reuven. He gave the Bechor to Yosef. Ephraim and not Menashe. Moshe and not his older brother Aaron. David and not the other 7 brothers, but the youngest one, David. Levi was the acted like the Bechor and not Reuven. Yisrael, the youngest, the weakest, is Am HaNivchar, the chosen nation, not the other nations. Isn't that interesting? Even a Kohen gets it by yichus, by birth. To become a Kohen, says in Pirkei Avos, you have to learn 24 different things, milas. A melech, that comes by yichus, by your father as a melech. That's 30 malos. But a Talmid Chacham does not come by yichus, you can do it yourself. That's 48 ways to become a Talmid Chacham. Why is it what we just said? Why is yichus, born automatic yichus, nothing to us? The Bechor is always overlooked. Pharaoh thought that we were a horde of slaves, and Hashem told Moshe, tell Pharaoh, B'ni B'chori Yisrael, my firstborn is Yisrael. Your people who you enslave, who you think is nothing, thereby me, the Iker, you're nothing. Why is it that power and firstborn and all that means nothing in Yiddishkeit? All the nations of the world, the firstborn was a king, and he was a priest, and he was a holy man. But Yiddishkeit is totally different. I just showed you 10 examples. Why the rejection of the firstborn? Hashem tells Pharaoh, you're a horde of slaves, or you think are nothing. To them, to me, they're the firstborn. You're not the firstborn. B'ni B'chori Yisrael, not Mitzrayim. Yisrael is the B'chor. The youngest, the weakest, the smallest. And Hashem always stands up for the Yosam and Almana and the Ger. Could anyone explain that to me? Why do we not buy into the firstborn cult? So you say, ooh, wait a minute. Pidyon Aben, that's a firstborn. Firstborn animal that's born, Karban B'chor. The firstborn donkey, Peter Chamor. So, firstborn is not nothing. So I left you with two bomba kashas. This kasha I'm going to tell you the answer. In Yahadus, in Judaism, the fact that you're born in something doesn't mean anything. You could be a great person, but we don't go by yichus. We go by zechusim. What did you do to earn this? Which means in Gashmias, the firstborn gets a double portion of the father's inheritance, but not in Ruchnias. All these names we mentioned are greater spiritually. Hevel is greater than Cain spiritually. Shem is greater than Yefes and Cham spiritually, because we come from Shem. Yitzchak is greater than Yishmael spiritually. Yaakov is greater than Esau. Yosef is greater than Reuven. Yosef is a tzaddik yisod olam. Nobody was a king and a navi like Yosef. Ephraim was greater than Menashe in Talmud Torah. Moshe was greater than Aaron. That's why he became the leader of the Jewish people. David was greater than the other 7 brothers of Yishai. Levi was greater than the Bechor, because Levi became the Bechor, not the Bechor. They lost it. Yisrael is greater than the nations, even though they're wicked, little and small. So it comes out, when it comes to Gashmi, it's like Pidyon Haben. So what they say to the Kohen says, what do you want, your son to work in the Beis Mikdash? Or 5 sloim? So the father says, here's 5 sloim, give me back my son. That's a business deal. Gashmi is still greater. Petach Hamor, because when you came out of Egypt, the Egyptians were like Chamorim, donkeys. They lived their pleasure life, nothing to do with godliness, nothing. And they captured nations for one reason, to enslave the men, not kill them, make them slaves, so the men could sit back all day and smoke heroin and whatever, hashish, and play backgammon, do nothing. That's why they enslaved the nations, because they can sit back and do nothing, whip the people to death. They're slaves. So the firstborn is very important as far as Gashmi is. So that's why being Petach Hamor. So they were considered like donkeys. So the first donkey a Jew has, the Bechor, he takes it, sells it, the baby donkey, and buys a little sheep and gives it to the Kohen. Otherwise, the Sanhedrin comes and cuts off the head of the donkey, the Bechor donkey. Because the Egyptians are like donkeys. You have to offer that up to the Kohen to let us know that our purpose in life is not like a Chamor, to live for Chumrius. No, it's for service of Hashem. Be aware of the invisible force called HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So therefore, we have to dedicate our life to this higher form and do not buy into that Egyptian cult of Chumrius. So you take the first Chamor, Bechor, and you kill it, or you go switch and buy a sheep, give it to the Kohen. So that's Gashmius. Just to realize that we're not lowlifes. And Pidyon Haben. But really, the person should serve in the Beis Hamikdash. So you give the Kohen 5 sloim, 5 silver coins of that country. Nowadays, every U.S. silver dollar, pure silver, is worth $27 per ounce. If it's an ounce, 5 times 2 and 27 is $130. Anyhow, it used to be $20, $30. Each silver coin, dollar was $7. 7 times 5 is $35. Now it's $150, $130. So that takes care of that. See, even Binyamin got a double of his father's estate, but he didn't get a portion of Eretz Yisrael. That's Ephraim and Menashe. So you see, Hashem is the Ab Almonos. He's the father of the Almonos, the widows, the orphans. He takes care of the downtrodden. That's why the firstborn doesn't mean anything unless you're a very great person, but it doesn't automatically mean just by yichus you become something great. In fact, a melech is a melech because his father's a melech, and a kohen is a kohen because his father's a kohen. But a melech and a kohen, they can purchase their ways by 30 or 24 miles. But a Talmid Chacham who does it on his own takes 48 steps to be a Talmid Chacham. So you see, it's all up to you, not yichus. That's why we reject the Bechorah concept as a guarantee for sure that you're a leader. Who said? It doesn't go by yichus, it goes by yischusim. That takes care of that, but if you know the answer to this Bamba Kasha, what's the difference between Geshem and Matar, and why does it say in the middle of the brachas every morning, between Matir Asurim, Zokif Kefufim, and Asali called Sarkin, and Mechem it's a Dover, Mechem it's a day, Gabem, you stick in there. Roka Haoris Alamoyim, God created the earth on top of the water. What's that have to do with me? That's the Bomba Kasha. Kushyo Ptsatsa, Bam Kasha. Let's finish up by Yechi here. It says that all the children, 12 children, that Yaakov blessed, they all had different traits. Ruvain, he's looking for a leader, so Ruvain is out, too fast. Pachas Kamayim, unstable like water. Shimalevi, too hot-blooded. Gets to Yehuda, you're the man. You're going to be the Melech, and from him comes Mashiach. Then he gets to Dun. Dun is one, each one gets one line. He's the defender of Klal Yisrael. He'll be a snake on the road, defeating, the biting the horse in the heel, and therefore they have to throw the rider off. So he has to sometimes use tricky ways to defend himself because he's outnumbered. And from Dun, who judges his nation, Dun means to judge, came Shimshon. Shimshon was a Shofet Yisrael, one of the greatest tzaddikim that ever lived, Shimshon, and happened to be a very strong man. And Shimshon was one of the Shoftim. And Don means to judge and to punish. When you get punished, that's called Don. Nachash means you punish the snake bites the horse, and therefore there can't be a cavalry if you bite all the horses. Naphtali is Ayola Shlucha, can run very quickly, which means his fruit also develops very quickly up in Kinneret. Peres Genosar, the finest pears come from up in Naphtali's neighborhood. God is a defender, fierce defender. He rips off people's heads and arms. He doesn't even need weapons. God is a very fierce fighter. Asher is an oil provider. Yisachar is a Talmud Chacham. And he's like a mule. He bears the load of Torah, and he's the biggest Talmud Chacham. When Rashi says he's a Chamor Gorem, a bony donkey, means he loads on himself all the Torah, and he's the Talmud Chacham. And when it says he does the work in the ground, and as a farmer, that's only a mashal, and it's only mashal, and he is really, but as Torah says, he's a farmer. Vayechi, he put his shoulder to carry heavy loads, and he works day and night. So if he learns all the time, Rabbi Isai, and Rashi says it's all a mashal about Yisachar, only for Torah. Let me ask you a question. If it's only learning Torah, so why do you need a piece of land? Yisachar, why don't you like Levi, who has zero land? Because you learn all the time? So Rashi's explanation is just a mashal. You have a chelik God gave you have to work it. Except now Yisachar is such a Talmud Chacham that he chose farming rather than anything else, because farming you work half a year and you rest half a year. That's the best time to be a Talmud Chacham. Work for 6 months and then learn straight for 6 months. My, that's the perfect profession for a Talmud Chacham. Gives you time to think. Not like a businessman who has to work 12 months a year. A farmer works 6 months a year, or 7, or 8, and he rests for 4 or 5 or 6 months. That's why Yisachar became such a great Torah scholar. Zvulun is the younger brother. He supports Yisachar. Well, if you're a farmer, why should you need support? You work for half a year. You live for half a year. But the other half a year, your brother has to help you. And Zvulun gets half the reward of it. So Yisachar is learning because he supports him. And Yosef, that is Malchus. The 10 Shvatim come from Yosef. And Mashiach ben Yosef, before Mashiach ben David. And Yosef was the king in Egypt for 80 years, Pharaoh. 40 years under Pharaoh, 40 years by himself. Binyamin is Malchus too. Shaul came from Binyamin, and Mordechai in Persia. Now we get to the end of the Parsha, and it says here the famous code when Mashiach is coming, and who he's going to be, and how old is he going to be. Yosef says, Yaakov says, please don't bury me here, and of course they took him out. But Yosef lived another 50, 60 years, 70 years. And then he died, and he said at the end, Yosef said, Yom Yosef El Echav, at the end of the Parsha, Anochi Meis, I am going to die. But Lehim Poko Yifkod, God will remember you. Eschem, you, Helo, Eschem Eres, Hazos will take you out of this country. El Oris Hashem Nishba Avram and Yitzchak Yaakov to the land that he swore to Avram and Yitzchak Yaakov. Poko Yivko, both have pays in them. This is the pay code. It says, listen, I was a pharaoh for 80 years, because he died in 120 and he started at 30. 80 and 30 is 110. He was 40 years under pharaoh and 40 years by himself. 80 years of pharaoh. Pay is 80. I was the king for 80 years and I took care of you. There will arrive here one day a man who is 80 years old. Poko Yifko, pay. And he will take you out of here. And that's Moshe Rabbeinu who came at age 80. He spent 40 years in Midbar and he died at 120. Because 80 and 40 is 120. Poko Yifko. Vayomas Yosef b'mei v'eser shonim. He died 110 years old. All the brothers lived 120 or more. And he lived 110 because he heard something he shouldn't have listened to. When the Yehuda was praying, was begging Yosef, he didn't know who he was, to let Binyamin go. He heard the word Avdecha Avinu, your servant, our father. He shouldn't have let him say that. Should have made him be quiet. He heard it 5 times, and the translator did it 5 times. That's 10. 10 years were taken off his life. Instead of 120, he lived to 110. And he lived 110 years. But Yechantu also, they bound him. The Yisam ba'aron b'Mitzrayim, they put him in the Aron in Mitzrayim. That's the end of the Vayechi, in the end of the book of Parshas. Now, wait a minute. Every Jew knows you're not allowed to get embalmed. Because embalming is a nivel hameis, a super major sin. Not even today can you make an autopsy. You can't have any autopsy on a Jewish body. Only one exceptional case, if there's a plague going on, says the Torah, the Gemara. There's a plague and people are dying. You can make an autopsy to find out how the guy died, so maybe you can help find out what the plague was. That's the only time you're allowed to make an autopsy. Autopsy, the two chemeisim can't do that. Can't open the body. It's nivel mace. You violate the mace. It's isser deraisa. How could Yosef do it to his father? Because it says so. And how could they do it to him? So my father explains in the Mayin Beis HaSheva, Yaakov never, ever had a embalming, nor did Yosef ever have. Look in the Mayin, he proves it. He says Yosef told his doctors, the Ravofim, to embalm his father. Yosef is the biggest tzaddik in the world. It's called tzaddik yisod olam. He knows embalming and autopsies are usher. Nivel hamez, isur deraisa. So he says, my father proves it to him that he never got embalmed, but the pharaohs wanted everybody embalmed. Yosef is the pharaoh, and he had his private people around him, and he told them, yes, he's embalmed. How do you know he wasn't? Because he said to his doctors heal living people. They don't embalm corpses. Told to his doctors, make believe. And they made believe that they had the embalming, and the body, how did it not disintegrate? In the heat, there's no refrigeration. They put in the somim in all the orifices to keep it smelling good. And tzaddikim, by the way, don't smell bad, don't decay at all, anyhow. So they never embalmed Yaakov, chas v'sholom, ever, nivel ha-meis, yisur deraisa. He would give up his life for this. Yosef, to have his father, one of the Abos, embalmed. It says V'yechantu harofim, and that's a proof they didn't do anything because a rofa doesn't bomb corpses. They deal with living. The bombers deal with dead people, and he's the pharaoh. He could call all the shots. And so the same thing he told his friends before he died, that don't do bomb me either. They put him in Aron in the Nile River, and when Moshe 70 years ago later, Moshe that night of his Mitzrayim on the 15th of Nisan, that said threw in a piece of copper with Hashem's name on it. Yud threw it in, and it say Alu Shar, and the coffin came up, and Moshe took the bones of Yosef and took it with him and the Mitzrayim, out of Mitzrayim, and it was in the Aron for 40 years rolling around in the Aron, one of the Aronas. Micha got this little. He was watching Micha. He got this little piece of copper where it said Yud Kevavke, put it in his pocket, and when they made the egel. They made an eagle that looked like a calf. He stuck it in the eagle's mouth and it started to speak. The eagle said, Anochi Hashem Elokecha. How you like that? Wow. there's koyach of evil people, and that religion called Pesel Michal continued on even when after 40 years. When they got to Eretz Yisrael, they made their own religion, Pesel Michal religion. Anyhow, we've had plenty internal. He didn't mean bad. He meant to I don't know what he meant. He was a big Russia, and maybe he did tshuva before his death. That's why we don't say Yamach Shemo. The only way we say Yamach Shemo is on that man over there. JC, we say Yeshu Hanavi, which is Yamach Shemo Zichro. All right, Rabbi said we're finished our sedra, and we said people say Chazak Chazak V'nis Chazek when you finish a sefer. Some people have a meaning to say Chazak V'nis Chazak. Because the Chazak Chazak V'nis Chazek is no pasuk, but there is, some people have a meaning, Chazak V'nis Chazak, because that is a pasuk, and the pasuk goes, Chazak V'nis Chazak Ba'ad Abeinu Ba'ad Ori Lakeinu Hashem Yasato Be'eino Shvuto.